everyone. Today we're going to dig into playing with Zbrush Core. I believe we're going to mess around with it just a little bit. I'm creating a little beer, just sit on a little stand. I'm using the similar forms that I was taught on how to structure characters and stuff, so you'll see him with his arms out like so. Ow. And with that, let's go have some fun. Let's cue the intro. Okay. Alright, now let's get into this a little. Alright, we're going to start off with a new project and we're going to go from there. What we're going to do here is we're going to start with a sphere, because when you open up a project, that's what you get. Which is fine, because that's what you want. A starting point. When it comes to a lot of these programs, whether it's ZBrush, ZBrush Core, there's some free ones out there. They're all similar as into the workflow. But what we want to do is bring in a picture here, get it all lined up, cut out, and prepped for what we want to do with it. And in this case, what we want to do is crop out our images, line them up, and that's what you see me here doing. And I don't know if I sped this up or not. I think I sped up this by the looks of it. Yeah, I've definitely sped this up. I may even speed this up a little bit more. But anyways, so you need a starting point. That's what the sphere is for. You don't need to use the sphere. There are other options, like with the, which I'll get into later videos, some options. If you're making something that's kind of squarish, you can use a square, cylinders and all that. And they even have things called Z-spheres, which are fantastic to use when you're trying to build up unique shapes quickly. So here I'm combining two spheres to generate the body and the head of the bear. Now, this is actually surprisingly easier than what I originally expected to do. You'll see me using the subtools and the tools working between the main tool and subtools to build up the form. And just like working with real clay, this is a little bit faster than real clay. What we need to do is we take chunks of clay, we form them, and then we apply them. Essentially, that's the concept here. You're taking your tool, is what they call it, which basically it's digital clay. You're taking your clay, so at this point on, I'm just going to call it clay, even though they call it a tool. And you manipulate it. You manipulate it, then you can smush it in. It's actually a lot faster and a lot easier to make unified objects with. As you see here, I'm sculpting in some holes for the eyes. I'll be moving in later to add little eyeballs to them. And one thing I would really recommend, if you're going to get into this, use some kind of sensitive digital tablet like a Wacom or like a Wacom, some form of Wacom, whether it's a bamboo, Cintiq, or a digital display, or it doesn't even have to be Wacom, just as long as it has a touch sensitive, a pen sensitivity of some kind, because you're going to want to be able to do those fine things. Now, mind you, if you don't have a pen, a digital pen that works with pressure sensitivity, don't worry about it. It's not that important. You can still do this with a mouse. It's just 10 times harder. That's all. But it still does work. And you still can be successful with it. Now that would be an interesting challenge, trying to do something with sculpting with a mouse. That's something I haven't tried. I've done drawings in Illustrator with a mouse. I've done hundreds of that, but I've not done it in a digital sculpting program like this. I've tried ZBrush. I've tried ZBrush when it was a 2.5D program. That's the roots of ZBrush, if anybody wants to know. Originally it was a 2.5D program. it was confusing to work with. So I never really got into it because I got lost. And when I was doing that, the internet really wasn't a thing yet. So that resource wasn't available as it is today. But with today's technology and stuff like that, and they've made this a lot easier to get into. And with the stripped down version here, we're able to actually learn the program fairly easily. And this is going to give you, anyone who's just starting out, a great foundation to be able to go on and use the full version. There's a lot more the full version can do than this guy. But this has its place, and it's a fantastic little program. It's worth $150 if you have it. As you can see, I'm starting with a couple cylinders here for the ears. I'm working on a separate subtool to do so. That is a great way of working. It allows you the flexibility, and then you can combine them afterwards, which is great. With that said, as you can see, I'm sculpting it, working with the sculpting of the ears. I am able to use my references and be able to form and shape everything as I need it to be. And as I plug along here, I am going to deform things. I'm pushing things in to form the shapes that I need. And I'm able to round off those sharp edges as I need to be, but with holding a reasonable amount of detail as far as the sharpness goes, and really soften that to the right position. These projects like this is actually a good starting point if you're just learning. I mean, you can try doing complicated things, and things that are probably way more detailed than you probably are capable of when you first start. That will probably not be the best idea, but you can do it if you want. Now, my point here is that you start off simple, learn basics, then you do the complex. These guys who do these amazing complex stuff in ZBrush, they've been doing it for years. Where someone like me who is just finally getting into it, just starting out, well, this is the right step. Start simple. Sculpt, work your sculpting basics, get them down first, whether it's a character you're working with or whether it's some kind of mechanical object. That's all doable, but you need to learn the basics first. That's how I approach any of the programs, whether it's Zbrush Core, whether it's Fusion 360, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Design, doesn't matter. You learn the basics. It's the same way when you're playing video games. You learn the basics before you really get involved in it. You learn how the quirks. You learn how to control your player. So, whether you're designing, whether you're playing a video game, whether you're designing a video game, whether you're creating a T-shirt, whether you're doing this, you start off simple and you work towards the complex. I guess you could say that's the theory of the day. As you can see, I'm sculpting the arm here. Notice how I've only working with the one subtool. What I'm going to do is actually take that once I have it done and flip it over to the other side. I'll duplicate the subtool, flip it over, position it, and then merge everything together. That's how that works. Now, let's talk about what Zbrush Core actually offers. As you can see, you can import images. You can place them, scale them, trim them, and be able to see through the model to look at where you're going and where you're at as far as the sculpting goes. You are able to put a front, a back on each side, a top and a bottom. So you can have all 6 axes to work with. the left and the right side, the front, the back, the top and the bottom. The way you import them is through the texture system. So you import them as a texture. You can adjust, then you can go in, set them as images, reference images as you see here. The other neat thing that Zbrush Core offers you is you can actually see how solid the background is. You can actually take that and fade that away. It'll fade the whole program so it's transparent and you can see what's behind it. I've tried that and don't like dealing with it, but I'm sure some people have a real good use for that, because this way you're not importing a bunch of images and references. And yeah, there are quite a few positives that I've seen with this program. And there are a few glitches I've seen, and there are a few things I wish that it had. But overall, for $150, I'm not complaining. I think this is a fantastic program. Now, one thing I did notice that I'm not too thrilled that they don't have is they took their Z-spheres and you're not able to manipulate them so you can reshape, well, not reshape, but reposition. That's what I'm looking for. The points of your model. So say you have a Z-sphere and the model is bound to that Z-sphere. When you rotate an arm with the modeling on it, that rotation doesn't maintain, you're not able to retain that. You don't have a skeleton to work with. So you can reposition this. So unfortunately, if I were to reposition this, I'd have to select parts, rotate them, select the other parts, rotate them, and do it that way if I wanted to stay in Zbrush Core, which is really irritating because there's an easy solution, and that's allowing for a bone structure to work, which they have the Z-spheres, and they could probably do that fairly easily. That's the one thing I would wish they had. I don't want to be able to animate them. I don't think that's necessary. That's not the point of the program. I think if we were able to position our characters, that'd be much more beneficial, especially considering this program is designed to generate your STLs for printing. Right? Yeah, you can't do this or that. That's not the point of the program anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's a lot that you can do, and working this way is actually quite nice, the way they have us allowed, but I still think a bone structure would be beneficial. Something that I would love to see Pixelogic do. I don't think they ever will, but if they do, that'd be fantastic. Let's see, the other thing that worries me is there's a bug in the program. It produces a second image that you can't move, rotate, or do anything with. It's just kind of there, and it happens fairly often. That little bug I would like to go away. But you gotta also understand that bug is probably a legacy issue that came from earlier versions of ZBrush. It's funny, at one point I was messing around with this program and I ended up somehow in the 2.5D mode. Mind you, this software isn't designed to handle that. It's not supposed to have that aspect of it anymore. And I was full-on ZBrush, actually still capable of doing the 2.5D, which is really cool. It's something fun to play with. I've messed around with it. It's quite fun to play with, even though I don't understand it fully. Obviously. So yeah. So as you can see, I'm working out my details some more, slowly building them up, slowly adding resolution, and working with dynamic mesh. So we do have two options here with dynamic mesh and subdivision. And if you're smart, you work with dynamic mesh first, get it to a certain point, and then you move over to the subdivision, and then you continue working and increasing detail. The subdivision will allow you to back up those details, go backwards. And you obviously lose as you minimize your um, level of detail. And the other problem is you are limited to a certain number of polygons. I've only hit that once, and I was purposely trying to hit that number, which is 30 million, I think, which should be plenty for any hobbyist. I know that's plenty for any hobbyist. The other thing is you really can't create your own brushes within ZBrush Core like you can with ZBrush. Your nice thing is they did allow you to be able to isolate objects, as you can see, or parts of your sculpt, which was really helpful. And I'm happy that they left that in. I truly appreciate it. Oh, excuse me. Alright, as I form the legs and the feet of the bear, yeah, that's where I'm at, right? Alright, so yeah, as I was saying, sorry, I just took a 5-minute break from talking here. Give me a sec. Sorry. So, as I was saying, as we form the feet of the bear, see how I'm working with a subtool? This is very convenient. Then what we can do is blend it, and ZBrush is smart enough to rebuild all the polygons. So you don't have to worry about that ultimately in the long run. And if you're going to export out textures and things like that, which you can do with ZBrush, you can't really do that here. You can export your coloring. You're not going to be able to manipulate it all that much after the fact. You'll be able to do a few things. Your parts and your things should come out just fine. You'll be exporting out as OBJ for that. But if you're just using it for, say, printing, this is kind of nice and convenient. It's a small program. It's fairly light, very user-friendly as far as that goes. And it was convenient and nice that they didn't change the interface from the original ZBrush, because ultimately, and I think this is their thinking, is as you progress and you grow out of this program and you want more of it, you're going to be able to go back and purchase the full version and get started and get up going, because you're going to be very familiar with the interface already. And then you're going to be opened up to this world of options. So, yeah, I mean, even at this point, look, I can cut the bear in half, flip him around, be able to do all that stuff too. So I can guarantee 2 different sizes. And as you can see, it does handle different sub-select groups too, which is great. It helps start you getting to understand what that is. They were very smart about this. This is a very fantastic way of approaching it. Although I would like to see them handle selection groups a little better, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm not one to complain about that too much, because it's just a step forward. I mean, it's just a step, and it's not even that big of a deal or that very much important step. They've given you a lot of methods of selecting things and applying selection, stuff like that. So they did a really good job on this, in my opinion. And they've given you plenty of options to work with, especially since this is a base beginner's program. That's how I look at this. This is to teach you to sculpt, help you get started at sculpting digitally. I would recommend this program to any hobbyist that's in sculpting, has interest in sculpting for 3D printing, because they've given you the right options. You've seen me already use this program in the 2 boots, the keychain that I made. You're going to see this a lot more as soon as I get this printer to a better state. Once I find the information to get the BL Touch to work. So that'll be in the future, and we're progressing there. But with that said, this is also a very different animal than working with something like Fusion 360, which is more mechanical based. Very different program, very different. What am I saying? Oh, very different focus. Where these guys are focused on the creativity, and something like Fusion 360 is focused on the technical aspects of things. They both have a purpose, and they both have their strong points, and they both have their weaknesses. Like if I were to go print this beer right now, if I were bringing the STL file into, say, something like Simplified 3D, it's going to be extremely small. And the reason is there's no scaling, no real way of visually scaling everything to have a connection in the real world with Zbrush Core, or even Zbrush for that matter. There are ways of fudging it, don't get me wrong. There are very good ways of fudging it. A lot of times, one trick that I did find to get around that, if you watch my boot, you see me working in Fusion 360 to start off with. What I was doing there is getting my footprint ready, getting my placement ready, getting myself a starting point. Why? Because I knew if I started there, I'll have my scaling right. Where in here, this is going to be very small if I go to print it. It's minuscule. I've already tried, that's how I know. But that's not a big deal. It's not important. Why? Because you can scale it in most printing software. That's why. And it wasn't, again, this software wasn't based off of that to begin with. The software is never based off of the real world. It was based off for the sculpting for video games, sculpting for... Actually, yeah, that's pretty much what it's originally based for, is sculpting for video games, concept art, and things of that nature. That's where this program really found its calling originally. Not the core, but the full-on ZBrush. The first version, like I said, was a 2.5D piece of software. It was amazing. I never could wrap my head around it. I never could really understand it, and there was no real resources when it originally came out to learn how to do this properly. Obviously, people have. And they've done a fantastic job over the years at really expanding the software. So, yeah. So I tried this when it first came out, thinking that, all right, I did not like, just so you're aware, actually, now that I think about it, I did try Mudbox. I was not happy with it, and I did not like the fact that I had to pay a monthly fee to be able to use it. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no issues or qualms with subscriptions. I have an Adobe subscription that I pay monthly. Why? Because I think it's worth it to me. And my familiarity, my background, were as a graphic designer and artist, and / illustrator, it's beneficial to me even still today, where I still use the software, not every piece of it, but I still use like Premiere Pro. That's what I'm doing my editing in. Illustrator, After Effects, I still use all those programs. Photoshop. I still do a lot of photography, so I use Lightroom. So that's where the benefit of a subscription, and it's always up to date. Now, where something like this, where I don't use a huge amount or very often, having a subscription is kind of dumb. So this is perfect, where I just spent a flat fee for it. And it's great. And when I have the money and when I'm ready to upgrade to the full version of ZBrush, I will spend the money for that, and I will buy the rendering software that goes along with it too. Why? Because it's going to, at that point, I'll be ready to be able to use the more of the features that they have available than the software has. Like I said, their idea, I think, behind this was to give you a starting point, to give you a chance to learn the basics. And that's what they've done really well with this. It's not perfect. You'll see at the end of this that you'll see the glitch actually with this. I ran into this interesting glitch, but that's because they didn't really remove all the aspects of that piece of the software. They missed something, and I wish they would just find a resolution. And all honestly, it's a really simple one. Just be able to clear the board. They are able to take a snapshot, and you're able to go in with that snapshot and based off that snapshot do stuff in the full version. What they just need to do is take where that snapshot is, they just need to reintroduce the shortcut to clear it. That's all, and that'll fix that problem. Alright, what's going on here? So yeah. As you can see, I'm building up detail. That's the idea when you're working with sculpture like this, to ultimately produce the final result. You dig into it, you pull out the clay, you push in the clay. That's the same thing as real life. You push and pull clay. That's how that works. I know, I've done it. I've taken sculpture classes. I've taken pottery classes. And you manipulate the clay by pushing, pulling, carving, adding, subtracting. That's what I'm doing here in the same aspect. It's just cleaner because I don't have water messing around. I don't have clay all over the place. It's all digital. Ultimately, if I had the proper tools, I would be doing this in virtual reality, but I don't have those tools. I don't have the ability to even try to do those. So yeah, this is really a good starting point, and I recommend anyone who wants to get into digital sculpting to start here. Spend the $150 and start here. So that's what I say. Well, you're going to say, what about the free stuff? The free stuff's garbage. I've tried most of it. I've even tried Blender's version of sculpting. And you know how much of a headache that is? It's a real headache to use. It's not fun. And this is fun. It should be fun. All right, and then as you can see, I'm zooming in a little bit, looking at adding detail. You see the bumps and stuff? If I were to have gone and shown you the wireframe, you'd see why those bumps were there. That's the resolution of the clay. That's where this is at the resolution of the clay that we're looking at, those bumps, and that's why you get them. ZBrush likes everything to be nice and clean as far as the quads go. It's interesting. They don't follow a certain pattern like you would with, say, Maya, where you'd probably have the quads going around in a circle to match up with the shape of the nozzle, or the muzzle of the bear, or the kneecaps. And that's why you have those in video games. You retypologize everything, so you can do that. So you can have the polygons the way you need them to do, so you can deform them. You don't have the option of doing a few things for video games. This wasn't designed for video games. This was designed to be outputting for like a 3D printer and stuff. And here I'm just experimenting with some shapes to make a stand for the guy, if you're wondering what I'm doing at this point. So, and what I'm working with is not really a sculptable, the object isn't really sculptable. You can't really create a sculpture with this piece yet until you tell it to shape it a certain way, or convert it to a certain shape, I should say. Oh, speaking of that, experimenting, I recommend anyone who's working with creative programs of any kind to experiment. Try different things. You might learn something that you didn't know before. You might actually find a better way of doing something, because most of these programs have more than one way of producing stuff, producing shapes, and then it's done on purpose. It allows you more flexibility in the long run. If one way doesn't work, go a different route. I've noticed this with Fusion 360. If one way doesn't work, you can always go a different route, and it usually resolves the problem. Same thing with ZBrush, Photoshop, Illustrator. Doesn't matter whether it's 3D, 2D, in most of these creative programs, there's more than one way of doing something. Why? Because you need those options. Those options allow you to do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. All right, there's the glitch that I was referring to. You can't get rid of it. I wish you could. As you can see, I still have the original object in there being manipulated, but I can't resolve that other issue. And that's what I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because I didn't understand what was happening at this point. Looks kind of stupid and funny, actually. This is what I mean. If they just add the shortcut in to clear the screen, that would resolve this. Right now, the only real solution to this problem is start a new project and export and import your objects, your tools, as they say. That's the only solution here, which is really annoying, mind you. And it's completely frustrating when this happens. I've had this happen to me on a couple projects. Or you can step back a few things and start over, or start from a previous one. So those are your options when this happens. Utterly complete aggravation, because you can't clear it, you can't do anything. I've tried doing research, I've tried looking up shortcuts or whatever, or if anyone's had this glitch. It could have been just me, that the compatibility with my particular setup, but I don't think so. I think this is just a glitch with the software, because they stripped down a lot and they probably missed a thing or two here and there. You had to have, because ZBrush is a really big program, really big. There's a lot to it, and when they pull this down to the basics, which is what this is, there. Starting over, like I said. That was the only solution I could come up with, and that's still to this day the only solution I have for that, because it will stay there regardless of your tool set. So you move on. You redo what you need to redo, and you move on. Yeah, so I'm gone back and re-adding what I lost, because at this point, I don't think I even bothered saving that one, which I wish I did, and then went back and just pulled in the objects from the previous save. Alright, well, I finished this up. Now, I'm not going to do anything with this there ultimately. If you guys think I should reposition him, let me know. And print him out, see how he comes out. You can let me know. I have no intention on printing him. So, or if you guys want me to expand on him, let me know in the comments. That'd be fine. It might be fun. Like if you want me to say, oh, hey, put some overalls on him, might be entertaining. Something to see. Another thing to explore a little bit more. Go for it. Let me know. I think I know this program well enough to do tutorials. If you want me to do a tutorial here and there with this software, go ahead. Let me know in the comments below. That'd be fine too. I need ideas anyways as to projects you'd like to see. I think that'd be fun to do. And if you guys have any, give me any ideas you think would be fun for projects, whether it's for sculpting. That'd be kind of cool. You know what? One thing I would want to try is trying to create a spaceship with this program. That'd be interesting because it should be really difficult to produce and be a real challenge, mind you. Why do you think it'd be a challenge? Because this is a soft body sculpting software. It's not really designed for a rigid body. And I think I have you know what? If I think of it in the future, we'll go over that route. But right now, I don't think we'll be doing that too much. I do have to finish working on the printer. I think I still got to finish my maker coin. I need to do the video for next week, which is going to be a fan shroud for the printer, because I need to resolve a little issue with heat going up the tube a little bit too far and actually melting the Teflon tube. I actually just had to replace the hot end to my printer because of that. So the fan shroud is going to be quite important at this point to get done. And that'll be my next project. So either way, let me know if you have any ideas for me to create projects that I can print. I think it'd be fun doing what you guys want. Doing stuff that you might think would be kind of cool to see. So with that, subscribe to see more. I do plan on doing more sculptures in the future. I do plan on doing more technical stuff in the future for the printer, as well as other things. Alright? And I'm a true believer in combining programs, so stay tuned for those challenges as well. So my suggestion to you, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'm shooting for at least one video a week. Shooting for at least Fridays, a reasonable size video. I will do random drawing videos scattered throughout the week, or sometimes none. And ultimately, at some point, I do want to get into talking about photography and how that can be approached for creative means versus, like traditional. Well, no, I'm not going to get into photography for like taking pictures at a wedding and stuff like that. No, thank you. That's somebody else's gig. Mine is more scenery, landscapes and stuff of that nature, or anything that interests me for that matter. It's a hobby, nothing more at this point. That, and maybe we can get into actually doing product photos as well at some point. So those are a lot of thoughts I have for this channel. And again, like I said, if you guys subscribe, we'll have a lot of fun doing so and exploring these ideas and concepts. I think that's going to be the best approach here. And with that, I'm going to wrap things up. Enjoy your night. And we'll just let this finish up, which will be done in a second, as I try a few things and decide that I hate everything. pretty much what it comes down to. I just didn't like the results, so I keep ending up. That's the nice thing about this, is you can try things, and if you don't like it, you can try something else. All right, good night, guys.